Hi everybody, it's Armin. Today we're going to be assembling a motor for Mr. Lelis. He has brought us his beautiful competition yellow NC Miata for replacement of the 2.5 liter motor. And he already has a 2.5 liter motor that was installed by the well-known shop doing terrible work. And the crank pulley failed on it. So now we get to do a teardown analysis and see what else has gone wrong with the motor. The reason we were doing this, usually we could just replace out the crank pulley, but he also has some leak down issues. So we decided we'll go ahead and replace the motor. He is in agreement. We're also going to verify that the build has all of the things that he paid for, which, or rather the previous owner paid for. It should have cams and valve springs. We'll verify what they are, and then we will transfer them over as appropriate. And if not, then we'll just put new ones in. Other than that, I've got the donor motor here. Seth is over there tearing the car apart, getting everything ready. We're going to go ahead and get to tearing this apart, cleaning it up, and prepping it for when the other motor comes out. So, come along with us. So, we're getting ready to pull out the motor now. And well, there you go. So we needed the oil pan off of this already for the other core motor that we were sending back from the previous one, so Seth has already removed the oil pan and the crank pulley off of this. I didn't need the crank pulley off, but I think he got a little excited and popped it off. Either way, we don't need that. But I have my core oil pan sitting here on the ground. We're going to clean that guy up, and then that will be the pan that goes on this for the other motor. Cool. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and start with the teardown, getting this thing cleaned up and ready for reassembly. First time for everything. Got an LKQ motor here. The oil filter's broken off, so I'll replace out the perch. All right, the cleanup took a little longer than expected. You saw me spend a good bit of time there with the spray gun. Turns out the nozzle was clogged. I got out one of the little carb cleaners, cleaned it out, you know, the little, kind of like this little needle guy, but it's got like ribs on it. And you stick it in the nose and it opened it up and then it sprayed a lot better. But hey, you know, I should have done that first. Anyway, motor's all cleaned up. I got all the oil off of the exterior of it, sprayed off all the components. I've cleaned the oil pan. It's over here. It looks nice. Ta-da! Nice and clean oil pan. I sprayed down the outside as well, so that's pretty clean too. I still need to clean the front cover. I will also need to trim the front cover because it has that boss in the middle from that one pulley. It only happens once in a while that I'll show. Once in a while we'll get one of these and it has that. And that sticks too far forward, so we're gonna have to pretty much make it flush with the front cover here. We're just gonna hit it with the grinder. So with that said, the motor is ready for me to start reassembling stuff. We have switched over to using all massive speed balance shaft deletes. Great product. We were using Mountune for a while, then we had a lot of trouble getting them. We used to be able to get them really easily, and now they have no ETA on them, so we hit up our buddies at Massive and they're like, oh, you want to be a dealer? So cool, we're a dealer for Massive now. We are also selling their timing kits, so if you need the timing tools to assemble your own motor, that is now an option when you buy your kit off of our website. Gosh, I'm battling getting this thing out. There we go. So we're gonna go and stick the balance shaft delete in. We're going to stick the oil pan and rear main seal on. Seth's just about ready to pull that motor out, and then we'll be able to transfer over stuff. Okay, I've got the balance shaft delete installed, I've got the rear main seal installed. I have something cool I'd like to show. So I get frustrated that these caulking guns, or these caulking tubes of RTV, these tubes of RTV, they come with one nozzle on them, and it's like you use it and then the nozzle, freezes up. Even sometimes if you cap it, it'll freeze up the first, inch or so, and then you struggle using it. As you probably seen me struggle in my previous videos. I went in and just 3D printed a cap for it, and nozzles. So now, for however many cents it costs me to print these, I can just print a ton of them, and then as I go, I can just pitch them, not have to worry about it, fresh tip every time. Check this one out. I went ahead and made a wide tip so that way I can spread as I want. So I'm gonna take this guy off. I need to go back and put knurling on it, because when you got some grease on your hands, you can't turn this thing to save your freaking life. But yeah, just another benefit of 3D printing. Hey Seth, where'd you put them oil pan bolts? I need them. Okay, you saw me. I was just about to put this perch on, and then I thought, I was like, oh wait, it's a competition yellow, so that means it's probably going to have the oil cooler, and it sure does. So I'm not putting this perch on. We're going to transfer the one off of the other one. Alright, I'm gonna do a little more cleanup on this angle because this is all nasty because I cleaned it upside down. Now this is all nasty here. I'm gonna do some cleanup on the flange as well. Once the motor is out, then obviously we're transferring cams and stuff, and we're waiting on Ford to deliver because we're out of block breathers. Sold a bunch of kits this week. Got both engines sitting right here now. This is the one that was removed, obviously, and that's the one that I was building yesterday. We have a box full of parts that were in the trunk. He's already supplied a couple of parts, including a thermostat. So it looks like the thermostat I installed, well, it goes back in the box. Let's see. The reason this car came in is right here. So now we're going to commence with tearing this one down. Don't really want to do a failure analysis, so I'll just comment on if I see anything, but I can tell you this came in with the original junkyard spark plugs, rusty and all, with the green dot on top indicating they are the original ones that this motor had when it was installed in a Ford from the factory. So they were never replaced. Next thing, it has the bad crank pulley. Next I'm going to verify the timing. Allegedly this has cams in it. We'll see. We're missing a bolt. Someone didn't reinstall the bolt at the bottom of the intake manifold. Okay, so earlier I said that we wouldn't be putting on that perch because he has the oil cooler and we'd be transferring it. Well, I'm not transferring it anymore because I remembered we're doing the Fab 9 intake manifold, and with that, it's real easy to delete, so we're gonna get rid of that. So I put on the perch. We're not putting the switch back in because we were waiting on a rotary Tronics gauge to come in, and we're gonna put that in the perch. Meanwhile, I've just taken the other one off to put it to the side. So, I'm gonna continue transferring parts. Okay, we got to the point of the teardown. We're going to go ahead and verify that it was timed correctly previously, and then we're going to transfer these cams and see if we have valve springs. The cams that are in here appear to be the BC cams. They were claimed to be. They have the orange stripe on them, and they are definitely taller lobes. I think I've transferred just about everything else. So let's verify this timing. Okay, sorry, I wanted to switch it over to stabilization mode so you can see this a lot better. So I'm gonna move the camera. So here we go. Okay. So, I got this lobe in. I can't get that lobe in. Rather, I got this cam end in and I can't get that cam end in. We go over to the front. The crank pulley is off. I mean, check this out. So that's as far forward as I can go. Again, can't get that thing in there. So now we're gonna stick the timing pin in. Now, ideally, this should go all the way to stop and it should be resting against the crank pulley, but it's stopping short. So I'm gonna crank this in and it's gonna try to move the crank pulley. One moment. Let's see. I'm gonna try something else. Okay, so with the cam holder out, let's back this up. Okay, now with the pin in the correct position, the crank falls in the correct position. But the cams don't. So the cams are off. Next thing, I've mentioned this before about these cheap crank pulleys. They're faulty in many ways. One being obviously how this one failed. The second one being, when we put on the crank sensor here, it's nowhere close to the correct position on this wheel. So if I put the sensor on there, the lowest I can go is still not going to line up with that tooth as it's supposed to. Or the other tooth. Wait. I think this trigger wheel may have moved. That's also a problem. Okay, Well, either way, we're gonna tear down the timing. We're gonna go ahead and get these cams out of here. So I was actually reflecting just a second ago on what I said. I bet the reason this trigger wheel is off is because that whole outer pulley portion was flopping around for a moment and probably dinged it out of the way. So on this one, I couldn't tell you if the ring was in time at all, because obviously now it's not. But either way, on other ones, if you've seen my other teardown videos, they aren't always produced in the correct position, which is bad. So let's go ahead and get this front cover off. So it looks like we got stock valve springs. Not a good idea to put in these fat cams with no valve spring upgrade. So we'll be putting in valve springs into this one. All right, I'm gonna get the oil pan off of this and it's ready to go back as a core. All right, so yesterday was my first day using those little caulking tips that I 3D printed and designed. Well, I noticed right away that with oil in my hands, there is no way to turn them. So I printed a whole bunch of new ones and these have little tangs on them so now I can grab them easily. But I printed a whole bunch of them now. So truly disposable. And yeah, so I made the wide version too. But they all have the little tangs at the bottom. But yeah, I made a whole bunch of these. So now, we're ready for any caulking incident. All right, I did a little bit of cleanup over here. I put some stuff out. I went and got our valve springs off a shelf, so I'm gonna go ahead and assemble those. We're gonna go ahead and throw those in. Then we need to throw our cams in, check our lash, etc., etc. You guys know the drill. And then, yeah, I transferred everything else. So the other motor is gone. I've already loaded it up on the truck. Those are ready to go off. So let's continue on. Okay, we got our first round of measurements. So I got anywhere between 9 and 12 on the intake side, and anywhere from 11 to 16 on the exhaust side. So let's go to the calculator, get some new values, get some new buckets. Okay, we just finished our second round of buckets. Unfortunately, I have no 4.62s on shelf, so I had to put in 4.42s. Looks like we're gonna have to actually change a couple of them up. So did pretty well in the intake. Got 2 7s at the front, the rest are 8s. I'm gonna leave that. On the exhaust side, I got variance all the way from 9 to 12. That's too big of a gap. So I'm gonna go ahead and redo the exhaust side. I'll recalc and then go from there. Okay, we finished all the work up until the front cover installation. So the cams have been lashed, they're in position, they are locked. You saw me put it at TDC. The chain is installed, it's tensioned, the cams are bolted down, and I did their angle digitally with the snap-on torque wrench. So unlike previous videos where I had to mark it, I figured out how to use the angle feature, and I've been using that. So, front cover, then crank pulley. I'm gonna cut out here and clean up the front cover. I'm gonna end up using the front cover that came off of the other motor. It's already clearance for the belt, saves me some time. Okay, we got the front end on, got the new front main seal, got the one pulley on here, and I've cinched down the bolts just enough. So we're gonna wait until tomorrow to put the crank pulley on, because I need to wait for it to dry, since that bolt right there is blocked by this crank pulley. So whenever you have the fluid damper, wait until the front cover dries so you can tighten everything, and then you can put the crank pulley on. So we'll do that in the morning. So it looks like we've come to a stopping point. This is probably a good point to end the video because the motor is essentially completed. The only things that I'm waiting on now is just the block breather. This should be arriving today. And then I just need to do a couple of coolant line shortcuts. So you'll notice we are putting on the Fab 9 manifold. So now I've eliminated out the oil cooler assembly, and I'm also going to be bypassing all of the lines that would go across the intake manifold. So we'll be taking a 5/16 coolant line, running it from this little barb here up to the barb on the EGR. If you do an EGR delete, you just cap this off here. And then for the other lines, we need to run a 3/4 coolant line from the top of the thermostat to the pipe on the firewall right here. And that actually can be done on any of the cars if you wanted to simplify your coolant loop. All right, so thanks for watching. Thank you, Mr. Lelis, for bringing us the car and entrusting it to us. And if you guys need anything else, let me know.